Have you ever heard of an empire that was, famously, not holy, not Roman, and not really an empire? Today, we re-diving deep into one of history's most fascinating and misunderstood political entities, the Holy Roman Empire. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll see why this zombie empire was way more influential than you think. So, where did it all begin? Picture this. It's the year 800, Christmas Day. In Rome, Pope Leo III places a crown on the head of a powerful king named Charlemagne, declaring him Emperor of the Romans. This moment is often seen as the spiritual birth of the empire, an attempt to revive the glory of ancient Rome in the West. But here's the twist. Charlemagne's Frankish empire soon crumbled after his death. The title of emperor became a political football, passed between various squabbling nobles. The real, continuous story of the Holy Roman Empire truly kicks off in 962 with a German king, Otto I. Like Charlemagne, he marched into Italy, protected the Pope, and was crowned emperor in Rome. From this point on, the title of emperor was almost always held by a German king. This created the core of the empire, a patchwork of territories, mostly in modern-day Germany, Austria, and northern Italy. The Holy part was added later to emphasize the emperor's role as the secular protector of Christendom, a partner to the spiritual power of the Pope. The Roman part was a claim to legitimacy, a direct line back to the Caesars. And the empire part? Well, that's where it gets complicated. Unlike the centralized Roman Empire of antiquity, the HRE, as we'll call it, was incredibly decentralized. It wasn't one solid country. Instead, imagine it as a massive, sprawling club made up of hundreds of different pieces. You had powerful duchies like Bavaria and Saxony, prince-bishoprics ruled by clergymen, tiny counties, imperial knights who owned a single castle, and free imperial cities that governed themselves. The emperor was the head of this club, but his actual power was often limited. He had to constantly negotiate with the powerful princes and electors, the handful of top nobles who had the right to elect the next emperor. This relationship between the emperor and the princes defined the empire's history. It was a constant push and pull. Emperors tried to centralize power, create a unified army, and collect taxes. The princes, fiercely protective of their own local authority, pushed back, guarding their privileges. One of the most dramatic clashes was the investiture controversy in the 11th and 12th centuries. It was a showdown between Emperor Henry IV and Pope Gregory VII over who had the right to appoint bishops. It got so bad that the emperor had to stand barefoot in the snow at Canossa for 3 days, begging for the pope's forgiveness. This event showed just how much the emperor's holy authority could be challenged. For centuries, the imperial crown passed between different dynasties. But in the 15th century, one family came to dominate, the Habsburgs. From 1438 until the very end, with one brief exception, a Habsburg sat on the imperial throne. With their vast personal lands in Austria and beyond, the Habsburgs were powerful in their own right, which gave the imperial title a new weight. One of the most famous Habsburg emperors was Charles V. His domains were so vast, including Spain and its American colonies, that it was said the sun never set on his empire. He dreamed of a universal Catholic monarchy. But Charles's dream was shattered by a force he couldn't control, the Protestant Reformation. In 1517, a German monk named Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to a church door, sparking a religious revolution that split the empire apart. German princes chose sides, some remaining Catholic, others becoming Lutheran. This wasn't just a theological debate, it was a political earthquake. Princes used religion as a tool to assert their independence from the Catholic emperor. The tension finally exploded into one of the most devastating conflicts in European history, the 30 Years' War, from 1618 to 1648. It started as a religious conflict within the empire, but soon dragged in every major European power. The war was catastrophic. Entire regions were laid waste, and the population of the German lands was reduced by millions. The war ended with the Peace of Westphalia. This treaty is a massive turning point. It officially recognized the rights of princes to determine the religion of their own lands and essentially gave them the powers of sovereign rulers. After 1648, the individual states within the empire, like Brandenburg, Prussia, and Bavaria, began to act more and more like independent countries. The emperor's power became largely symbolic. The empire continued to exist as a legal framework, a kind of defensive league, but it had lost its internal cohesion. The French philosopher Voltaire, writing in the 18th century, famously quipped that it was neither holy, nor Roman, nor an empire. And by his time, he was pretty much right. So how did this thousand-year-old institution finally meet its end? Its death knell was another Frenchman, Napoleon Bonaparte. At the turn of the 19th century, Napoleon's armies swept across Europe, defeating the Austrians and their imperial allies. He reorganized the German states, creating a new confederation of the Rhine under his protection. Facing this reality, the last Holy Roman Emperor, Francis II, saw the writing on the wall. The title was meaningless. In 1806, to prevent Napoleon from claiming the ancient title for himself, Francis abdicated and formally dissolved the Holy Roman Empire. After 1,006 years, the empire quietly faded into history. But its legacy is everywhere. The HRE's decentralized nature is a direct ancestor of modern German federalism. The rivalry between Austria and Prussia, which began within the empire, would go on to shape the unification of Germany in the 19th century. Many of the borders and identities of Central Europe were forged within its loose framework. It was a unique experiment in governance, a complex web of rights, traditions, and allegiances that survived for a millennium. It wasn't a failure, it was just different. It was a pre-modern state that functioned on its own terms, a living relic of a bygone world that shaped our own in countless ways. So the next time you hear someone dismiss the Holy Roman Empire, you'll know the real story. It was a complex, contradictory, and utterly captivating entity that sits at the very heart of European history. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey into the past as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next historical deep dive. Let me know in the comments what you think. Was the HRE more of a success or a failure? See you next time.